All right, everyone. Ready to dive deep? This time, we're tackling marine engineering technician interviews.
We're going way beyond just, defining what they do. We're getting you ready to nail those questions.
Absolutely, and we've got some great resources to help us out today. We're using RoleCatcher's Career Guide, their interview guide, and even their platform overview.
It's really remarkable, actually, how many people going for these jobs don't quite get how important that prep is.
Oh, true.
It's more than just like knowing the difference between a mast and a hull.
Right,
You got to show those hiring managers you're passionate, that you're an expert.
right. You have to stand out.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into a common interview scenario. Imagine you're facing the hiring manager and they ask, what inspired you to become a marine engineering technician? Seems simple enough.
It does, but you'd be surprised how many people stumble on it. This is your big chance to really make a first impression.
It's not just about saying you love boats.
Exactly. Everyone loves boats. Dig deeper, What is it about the machinery, the building, the repairs? Maybe you've always just felt drawn to a career on the water. Find that personal connection.
It's about telling your own sea shanty, but about becoming a marine engineering technician.
Oh.
What are some things people should avoid saying when they answer this question?
The biggest thing is don't be generic. I'm passionate about boats. Yeah, okay. But connect that to the actual job, right?
Yes.
What is it about being a marine engineering technician that you love? Is it the problem solving, the hands-on stuff? Or maybe it's the challenge of working on those big, complex systems.
That's where really understanding the specific job comes in.
And that's where RoleCatcher and their AI can really help out.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
It looks at the job description, sees what keywords that particular employer is using.
Okay, so like if they mention needing someone with, say, experience in propulsion systems, RoleCatcher would pick up on that.
Exactly. It might suggest you talk about a time you designed or maybe improved a boat's propulsion system, really highlighting those relevant skills.
That's incredibly helpful. All right, let's move on to another classic interview question. Picture this. The interviewer leans in and says, how do you make sure all the equipment, all the machinery you're working with is actually functioning the way it should?
Ah, this one. This one's all about showing how meticulous you are, your dedication to safety, that you really understand what preventative maintenance is all about.
You can't just say, I check everything.
Definitely not. You got to have a system. Show them you've got a system.
So give them the step-by-step.
Yeah, talk about specific procedures you follow, regular inspections, preventative maintenance routines, sticking to industry standards, all of that. You could say something like, I follow a strict maintenance schedule. That means daily inspections of all the critical stuff, engines, generators, pumps, you name it. And then, every so often, whatever the time frame is, I'll do preventative maintenance too. Got to minimize those malfunctions.
Smart. Really emphasizes that proactive approach, shows you get how crucial that is in a maritime environment.
Exactly. And this is where having some real experience to talk about really comes in handy. Can you think of a specific time when you were doing your checks and you found a problem? Maybe something small that could have become a way bigger deal later on.
That's gold right there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can talk about procedures, but a real example, that shows you can walk the walk.
Oh, absolutely. A good story, showing what you did. That's always going to beat just talking in generalities.
Speaking of showing what you can do, let's talk about troubleshooting.
Yeah.
Big part of the job, right?
Huge.
So say the interviewer asks you, how would you go about troubleshooting and then actually fixing equipment malfunctions? They might even throw in something about especially under pressure.
They want to see you can think on your feet, that you've got that analytical mind, which obviously when you're dealing with complex machinery out on the water sometimes.
Pretty essential.
Essential is an understatement. So yeah, when you answer this one, don't just jump right to solutions. Talk about your process.
Like, what's the first thing you do when something goes wrong?
Exactly. Do you look at the symptoms? Check the manuals? Do you start testing different components one by one? Or maybe you've got a go-to diagnostic tool you use. Lay it all out.
Be that marine detective figuring out what's going on.
Love it. And this is another spot where those real examples are your best friend. Think about a time you solved a really tricky technical issue, especially if it happened under pressure. Maybe you didn't have all the equipment you'd normally want. That's a story they'll remember.
It makes you relatable. Speaking of which, marine engineering, it's often a team effort, right?
Big time. No one's out there alone on this one.
So teamwork, collaboration, that's got to be something interviewers are looking for. They might ask, how do you like to work when you're on a team project? Especially when maybe the deadline's looming.
They want to know you can not only handle the technical stuff, but also that you can play nice with others.
Navigate those interpersonal currents.
That's a good way to put it. So when you answer, emphasize good communication, sharing your knowledge, being focused on that common goal.
But what about when there's, conflict? Because let's be honest, that happens on any team, right?
Oh, for sure. And they'll want to know you can handle that maturely. A good thing to say might be something like, I'm all about open communication. Everyone's got to have their say. But if there's a conflict, I address it head on. Focus on finding the solution that works best for everyone and gets the job done.
Don't rock the boat unless you absolutely have to. Okay, switching gears a bit here. Marine engineering. It's a field that's always changing. New tech, new everything.
Always evolving, absolutely.
So how would you answer this one? How do you stay up to date with all the latest advancements in marine engineering technology?
This is your chance to show them you're a lifelong learner, that this isn't just a job for you, it's something you're genuinely interested in.
You're excited about the future of the field.
Exactly. So talk about any professional development you've done, courses, workshops, conferences, maybe you're part of some industry groups. Read all the publications.
Even if you've worked on personal projects that pushed you to learn new things, that counts.
100%. And don't forget certifications. If you've got them, flaunt them, as they say. Certified marine technologist, certified marine engineer. Those are signals that you're serious about this.
And, we've got to mention RoleCatcher again here, right? Their Career Compass feature. That's a game changer for this kind of stuff.
It really is. It looks at what you already know, your skills and experience, and then it points you toward courses, certifications, even job openings that make sense for your path. And it keeps up with industry trends, so you always know what's what.
Like having a personalized career GPS guiding your way through it all. Okay, so we've talked about skills, teamwork, staying current. Can't forget safety, though, right? That's got to be a huge part of any interview in the maritime industry.
It's paramount.
They want to know you're not going to cut corners.
Yep. For sure, they might ask something like, how do you make sure your work is always following all the safety regulations and procedures?
And this isn't the time to just mention one or two things vaguely. You got to know the specifics.
You're going to know your stuff, yeah. So familiarize yourself with the big ones. International Maritime Organization, they've got standards, the U.S. Coast Guard, all depending on where you are, what the specific job is. Be ready to talk about those.
And again, examples are key. Give them a fresh instance of how you put those regulations into practice in your actual work.
Totally. You could say something like, I take fire safety very seriously, regularly inspect those fire extinguishers, make sure the escape routes are clear, and whatever I'm doing, I'm always thinking about those IMO fire safety regulations.
It shows you're proactive, that it matters to you. Now, here's one that could be a bit of a curveball. Imagine the interviewer asks, tell me about a time you had to make a tough call about safety. Maybe it even meant delaying a project or disagreeing with someone above you.
Ooh, that's a good one. They're really trying to see your judgment there, your commitment to safety, even when it's hard.
Being the voice of reason, even when things get stormy.
Exactly. If you've got a real story, perfect. Tell it. If not, you can still talk through how you'd approach that kind of situation. Emphasize open communication, assessing the risks, and always putting the well-being of the crew and the vessel first.
Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Technical skills, teamwork, safety, staying up to date.
We have. And don't forget, we touched on how RoleCatcher, with their AI and those cool features, can really give you a leg up during the whole interview process and beyond.
Like having a digital first mate there to guide you. But before we wrap up this whole deep dive into marine engineering technician interviews, we got to talk about one more thing. Those curveball questions, the ones you don't see coming. All right, so we're back and we're diving right back in. We've talked about those common interview questions for marine engineering technicians, but what about when they throw you a curveball? Those unexpected ones that you can't really prepare for.
Ah, yeah. Those are designed to see how you adapt, how you think on your feet, if you can handle pressure.
Like a rogue wave coming out of nowhere.
That's a great way to put it. And those questions, they usually start with, tell me about a time when, they want to hear about real situations, how you faced a challenge, what you learned from it.
So it's story time, but with a point. What are some examples, though? Like, what kinds of curveballs could they throw at you?
It could be anything, really. Maybe they'll ask about a decision you had to make with not enough information, or a time you disagreed with a supervisor, or maybe a project that just went totally sideways.
Those moments that really test what you're made of.
Precisely. And the thing is, while you can't predict exactly what they'll ask, there is a way to get yourself ready for that kind of question. It's called the STAR method.
STAR method. Okay, tell me more.
So, STAR. It stands for situation, task, action, result. Basically, you're telling a story, but in a structured way. So first, you set the scene, right? Describe the situation briefly.
So were you fighting a fire in the engine room,
Right.
trying to fix a complex electrical problem, given the context?
Exactly. Then you talk about your specific role in that situation. What were you tasked with? What was at stake?
Were you the chief engineer, responsible for everyone on board? Lay it all out.
Yes. Then you get into the action. What did you actually do? What steps did you take? And this is where you can really highlight your thought process, your decision-making, your problem-solving abilities.
Show them how you operate under pressure.
Exactly. And finally, the result. What happened? Did you fix the issue? What did you learn from the whole experience?
Those lessons learned moments, they're gold. Shows you can grow, that you're not afraid to make mistakes and learn from them.
Exactly. And look, the key with all of this is to be authentic. Tell real stories that really showcase your skills, your experience, but in a way that's genuine, you know?
Makes you relatable. Now, we can't forget about RoleCatcher and their AI here. They can actually help you practice for these curveball questions,
Oh,
right?
yeah, for sure. They have this feature, interview practice. It's amazing. You basically get to do a mock interview, and their AI will give you feedback on your answers.
So you can refine those stories, get comfortable talking about them.
It's like having your own personal coach right in your pocket.
Love that. Well, as we come to the end of our deep dive here, any last pieces of wisdom for those aspiring marine engineering technicians out there
Yeah.
getting ready to face those interviews?
The biggest thing is be prepared. Do your research on the company, on the job itself. Practice your answers both to those standard questions and think about some of those curveball scenarios too. And most of all, let your passion for this field shine through.
I love that. Enthusiasm goes a long way. And hey, don't forget about those awesome AI tools like RoleCatcher. They can really give you an edge. Well, there you have it, everyone. We've explored the role of a marine engineering technician. We've tackled tough interview questions, and hopefully you're feeling more prepared than ever to navigate those sometimes choppy waters of the job search. Until next time, fair winds and following seas.